So we have Eric Anderson here, who is a local commercial real estate expert here. And we want to understand how he's able to do what he's done, how he got started, and what he thinks about in general when it comes to commercial versus residential, and how he puts it all together. What was it like? What did you know that you'd be doing what you're doing today, which is owning buildings, developing, having a brokerage, or did you just think it was something interesting that you wanted to dabble in?
I had no idea, actually.
Okay.
I was in a totally different career. I was in the retail. I loved what I was doing. Real estate was a hobby for me, and life changed, and I had to quit my job because I didn't want to be there anymore. And I was like, what do I do? So I went and got my real estate license, and like a rocket ship just took off from there. And here I am today.
Lots of people get their real estate license.
Yes.
For them, it doesn't take off like a rocket ship. So you mentioned you were working in retail. What was it that you didn't like about retail that you saw an opening in real estate?
So I actually loved retail. I loved what I was doing. It was a family business, and just the family dynamics changed, and it was just time for me to make a change. I was kind of given an ultimatum. I had to pick a direction that I was going to head in, and I don't like ultimatums. So I did it, and I picked that direction, and I jumped ship, and here I am.
Just into real estate. And did you know someone doing real estate that you wanted to model or work with?
I did not. I had, today the people are so lucky with YouTube. I'm a little bit older, so I don't think we had YouTube back then. But I had no mentorship. I had nobody to give me advice. I had nobody to show me direction. It was just me kind of figuring it all out on my own. I had an aunt who was a real estate agent, so residential, and I was able to talk to her a little bit about showing houses and stuff, but that's it.
Okay. So that describes lots of people who just start because they have some interest in it, but they don't really know what to do because they don't have mentors. So you left retail, you had experience in retail. Instead of switching to a different company and continuing to do retail, you got your real estate license and said, that's it.
That's it. I'm doing it.
So what was the first?
And I didn't make any money for 6 months.
The 6 months is actually not bad.
Yeah.
That's most people. But what was your first step into real estate after you get your license?
So after I got my license, I always considered myself as a super hard worker, and I'm not afraid of challenges. So I went right out to those big residential listings to try to get a couple $1 million houses and see if I could land them and get them to trust me to sell. I didn't get any of the listings, the first 3 that I went after, but I did get appointments. I got in the door for $3+ million houses in Bergen County, New Jersey.
Okay.
So I was proud of myself, and I had someone, my broker at the time, went with me, and she was proud of me, and but we just couldn't land the deals, and I think the clients saw that I just didn't have that experience yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
all right, so you came in and you were ready to just go after the big fish. Right
yes,
off the bat.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. So the $1 million listings didn't work out initially. So how did you adjust?
I just started going after everything. I started with smaller stuff. I started with middle stuff. I just anything that had a heartbeat, so to speak, as far as real estate, I went after it. And I tried it, and it started to stick. And then as I learned, it got better and better and better. And I'd say my residential real estate career was short because then I wanted to learn more about real estate in general. So then I actually went into property management for 1.5 years, and I learned how to manage buildings. And then on the side, I started buying some investment property. So I shifted out of the residential market pretty much entirely within the first, let's say, 2 years of my career.
First 2 years, okay. And within the time you spent in residential listings, you were working with a broker who was going on appointments with you?
My broker went on the big appointments with me.
Yeah.
They weren't there for every step of the way. Brokers don't have a lot of time usually to help you. Yeah. But they did help me in the first couple tries, and then you just have to learn. It's either a salesperson or you're not. That's kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because I really care about what I'm doing, and I care about helping people, and that shows through. So that helps the sales pitch. When people see that you're really invested in helping them, it helps them say yes.
Yeah, agreed. And the first 2 years are difficult because that's where you face the most challenges. So 2 years into residential, you closed a few deals. You figured there's more to it than just residential sales. You got into property management.
Yes.
And what was going on through your head? Do you want to be a top sales rep at this point? Do you want to own a property management company?
So I was like, I can do better than the owner of the company. So
In which company? The brokerage or the property?
the property management company. So
Okay.
after watching that for about a year and a half, participating, I went out and started my own property management company. And I did that for, let's say, 6 or 8 months. It was really hard to get clients,
Yeah.
Especially when you didn't have a reputation or a following, which at this point I'm only like 2.5 years in. And then I realized how much work it was to be a property manager in a smaller level for yourself. You know, you don't make huge checks. You don't make $50,000 checks in a deal. You're basically building up like a salary. You know, so if you start off small, you can have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 a month, you know, in property management. But it's a lot of work to get there. And where you make money in property management is bigger scale stuff. Or if you're looking at it as a career and you're working in like a bigger company, like in the city, managing some bigger buildings, then you can make some nice paychecks. But
Yeah.
it wasn't generating the quick cash flow that I wanted. But I also learned about buildings during that experience. So while I grew up in a family that my grandfather was an electrician and my dad did a lot of house building projects, so I had a base. But being in the property management end really taught me, you know, how to do roofs on high-rise buildings, how to put in new boilers, all these little things that I really needed to know to become a big investor, a developer. So
Okay. So you're 2.5 years into your real estate career. You have residential experience.
yes.
Now you have property management experience. You understand repairs, management, leasing.
So I bought a building before I did property management, and
Okay.
it was a questionable asset for me to buy, but I bought it.
But hold on.
And it was
you
risky.
were in residential for 2
Yes.
years. At what point did this building how did you come across the building?
It was a building that my grandfather owned,
Yeah.
and he decided he wanted to sell it. It was a single tenant building, which in most cases I would advise you never buy. Single tenant building. I said, I'm going to do it because I could do anything. I bought it. It was, it turned out to be a big struggle.
Yeah.
But as I'm doing all that stuff, this building was growing in value. So I made about, about right when I was in my property management business, so like 3 years in, about a year and a half after I bought it, I generated interest for people, or people approached me to buy it, and I ended up selling it reluctantly, and I made over $1 million profit in this transaction.
Wow. So
And
that
I'm
was
like 28, 26, 28, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, wow, you know, this is a
All
ton
right,
of money.
So we got the answer that we were
Yeah.
looking for. What was the big reason that you stayed in real estate and you decided to continue pursuing real estate? Because
The money.
somewhere between being a residential agent and property management, you made $1 million.
Yes, I made a lot of money.
Small
So,
detail, but yeah, you made $1 million. But for people who are residential agents, what were you doing that helped you finance? Were you doing great in sales? Did you go into partnership with this? Because buying a building is very difficult, especially when you're.
I did it all by myself pretty much. I just tried it. I just learned about it. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Great book.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki, you got it.
Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
That was probably the first and one of the few books that I've read on real estate. I know
Highly
everybody's out there reading like thousands of books.
Yeah.
I didn't. I read like 2.
So you just jumped into it.
I just jumped in and I tried it, and I tried the different roles to try to figure out which area
Yeah.
would fit, and you learn by trying different roles.
Okay. All right.
So
All right. So now 2.5 years into this, you make enough money in sales. You come across a deal through your own network, and that deal ends up being the home run that most people wish for, that convinces them that this is a path that you should be on.
okay.
And by this time, you already have property management experience.
Yes.
You have a nice check. You have some savings, and you realize that, all right, I could do well in this, make much more than I was doing in retail. What should be my direction?
Well, I didn't have a clear-cut direction because
Yeah.
just because you're successful one time doesn't mean you're going to be successful again.
And that's a great point, because at one time success can actually stop you from continuing it, because you may not be able to repeat that.
Right.
So
And
that, yeah.
you also have to get the confidence. You have to understand what you did and how to do it, and was it a fluke? Was it something that is going to happen each time? And then, having a large chunk of money, it's really a burden.
Yeah.
Because you have to know what to do with that money. You have to know
Yeah.
how not to lose it. You have to know how to make it grow. And in real estate, there's ways to do, like typically when someone makes a large check, they have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
In real estate, there's something called a 1031 exchange, which allows you to exchange a building that you're selling for different buildings, and it allows you to defer your taxes indefinitely,
Yeah.
I believe. So I did a 1031 exchange. So even though I just made $1 million, I didn't have that money in my hand. So like as poor as I was before,
Yeah.
I was still poor. Like I still needed to figure out how to make money to eat because this was an investment.
Yes.
And this money just shifted. So now I have like 6 months to figure out what am I going to replace this with and what am I going to buy to add value and take this $1 million and turn it into 5 or whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
I had to figure that out.
So when you sold that, a 1031 exchange, for people who may not know, is you have to find a like property within 6 months, sell your property, and use all the sales proceeds to buy the new property within 6 months.
Yes.
Were you able to do that within 6 months?
I did.
You did, nice.
And you can buy more than one. You can buy, I think it's up to 3. And you don't have to successfully do 3. You could do 1, and whatever you don't exchange, you pay the taxes on. But I managed to buy 3.
Yeah.
And one of the 3 that I bought was a fixer-upper. But it wasn't a house fixer-upper. It was a commercial fixer-upper.
Okay.
And that's where I kind of jumped into it and took off. And I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you make a great point. I mean, the saying is most real estate investors are equity rich, cash poor. Figuratively, of course. But that happens because when you make $1 million, most people won't sell it because they want to avoid paying taxes, which is a smart thing to do.
Sure.
So that's a great example of being a millionaire and getting your step into the door, but not necessarily having it in your pockets.
So it's okay to pay taxes, right? It's part of what we do here as a society, and I do pay taxes when it's appropriate to pay them. However, when you have an opportunity to grow your real estate portfolio and the government gives you these opportunities through 1031 exchange, why not take advantage of it? I mean, literally, you now have that $1 million that you can keep moving forward into more investments rather than giving 30 or 40% of it in taxes.
Right.
So it was really a game changer. I'm very happy that I did it, and I would recommend that if anyone ever gets into this situation, they have to do that. It's super important.
Yeah, not to mention, it's not just tax savings, but the whole purpose of the 1031 is to keep that money circulating. So you took that one building and you bought 3 buildings.
Yes.
You fixed those 3 buildings.
Yes.
You bought them up to date. You rented them out. And there's an entirely significant net gain from that.
Yes.
Not just.
But then I did the Burr method because that was probably one of maybe 2 buildings I've ever sold in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I'm not a seller, I'm a buyer. I reluctantly sell stuff. Just because you wave a huge profit in front of me doesn't mean I'm going to sell it. That's not what motivates me.
Yeah.
But so I bought those out of those 3 properties. What I did is I fixed them up, I rented them out, and then I refinanced them.
Yeah.
So
the Burr method is an extremely powerful way of getting all your money back out of the properties, right?
Yes.
So you bought 3 properties. They were owned free and clear, I'm assuming?
Well, no. They had... So when you have that $1 million, the trick is you don't have to spend just $1 million. You could spend $3 million. So what I did is I leveraged up. So I took my $1 million cash, and then I bought 3 properties that were worth more than $1 million. So that allowed me to grow my portfolio rather than just paying $1 million on one property.
That's brilliant. So they do have, you went to a bank to finance the other 3. Okay.
Yep. And the more experience you have with financing, the more financeable you become. Mm-hmm. So right now, because I've done so much, like banks just
throw their
pretty
money
much they don't throw it at me, but they're more interested in, like, when I make a phone call, everybody's interested in talking to me.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to work with me. I can negotiate. I don't have to just say, okay, I'll take that rate. I could say, look, I can get this here, or I need this. I need you to work with me. Yeah. And as long as you're respectful, most banks, they want to work with you, and they'll try to do something favorable. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a very impressive ride and a fun ride. But what would you say to someone who's starting out, same situation as you, 6 months, they haven't made a sale? Being a sales rep is very challenging initially. getting leads, business, but having the vision to jump into these different areas and just grow so rapidly. Like, not many people would even get into $1 million deal to begin with.
Right.
Let alone know what to do or how to fix it. What separated you from the average person who's a sales rep, sees, maybe I can make 100,000, 200,000, be a top sales rep, whatever it might be, versus someone who just goes into commercial, starts owning buildings, and does all these crazy things within a 5-year period.
Desire to be successful.
That's it. Okay. But there's
I
something
just like
else.
to be
How did
successful.
you learn this as you were going along? What stopped you from saying that, you know what, I'm not ready for this $1 million building?
Because I don't like to take no for an answer.
Okay.
I don't like to be told I can't try something. And if I get interested in something, I'll just go for it. So that's what I did.
And how about the learning aspect of it? How did you?
You learn every day. You make mistakes.
Yeah.
I've made tons of mistakes. Thank God, knock on wood. There was not too many mistakes that were made, and I didn't make any mistakes that were detrimental. Trust your gut. Do your research. I'm a big proponent of looking on YouTube, especially if you're doing like a construction project or you need something. Your toilet's broken and you're trying to figure out how to fix it, but you're going to hire somebody. Just go on YouTube. Spend 20 minutes looking at videos. So when that plumber shows up, you can actually have an idea of when they say the flange or the flapper or whatever, the handle, you know what that is. So it just gives you an edge.
And I will say, working with Eric, he has insights into every aspect of real estate. So you don't just hire it off and expect the person to do it. You know what they're coming to do.
Yes.
Or at least have somewhat of an idea of it. You don't have to be an expert at it, but
try to. I actually had a situation today with a contractor with a header. A header is a piece of wood that supports an opening below it, and there was some discussion as to whether or not a header was needed, and I knew one was needed just because of my experience. So it's cool when you know things. You may not know how to do the header, you may not know exactly how many nails or screws or what size it is, but the fact that you need it is already half the battle right there.
It is. And then you just rely on the experts to confirm what you think is needed.
Yes, and it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then ask more questions.
Well, there you have it. So from a real estate agent who left a retail job, got into sales, property management, bought his first building, made $1 million, but didn't do what most people would do, which is cash out, go buy a nice car, some jewelry.
I just bought a nice car now at 50.
You did? Well, a really nice car now at 50, by the way. And then you kept that money on the table. Keep your chips on the table, and then you just kept repeating it, and you grew it to the empire that you have now.
Yep. Keep reinvesting. Reinvest in yourself. Read if you can. Watch podcasts. Watch videos on how to do stuff, and just try it. You got to be in it to win it. That's my big thing. Yeah. And another big thing that I've done my whole life is I visualize things. So if I want something, I just put it in my head and I just constantly revisit it. And I always say if you visualize it, you can own it. So that's kind of my saying. And here we are. Now I gotta keep visualizing more. So Empire State Building.
So I'm sure since then you've multiplied the amount of buildings you've owned, and we could do a whole entire episode just on that. But what's your visual? What are you envisioning now?
I'm envisioning a 24-unit apartment building. So Omar and I are working on a building together.
Are you buying this building, or
we're building this building?
Building it from ground up.
Ground up.
All right, so from owning a portfolio of buildings and properties, now you're getting into development from ground up.
Yep.
What a story.
Scary.
What a story. Great insights into someone who started from where most people begin, by getting their real estate license, and has been successful in creating an empire and is now developing buildings. And I'm happy to be part of that project.
I'm happy to have you.